Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So for this video, our group will explaining experiment G4 part 1, which is core logging from subject SEAA 2012, and the lecturers for this experiment is Dr. Afika binti Rahim. Before we start, I'm going to introduce the group members of group 4. The first one is Amira Dalila binti Jamaluddin, which is me. Second, Chu Zingyi. Third, Muhammad Nazri bin Muhammad Nasir. Fourth, Nazrul Nazwan bin Muhammad. And lastly, Tong Ren Hao. The introductions for this experiment is rock assessment are based on sample recovered from boreholes and excavations as well as in situ material investigations. There are some important factors in defining the engineering qualities and must be considered during the characterizing the rock, such as strength, weathering effects, and discontinuities of a rock. The most crucial of them are the discontinuities. Thus, special emphasis is made to this element. Although a specific rock name can frequently imply a range of typical engineering features, engineering attributes are not included and cannot be properly deduced merely from this form of geological categorizations. To appreciate the geological origin and structure of an area, to demonstrate the geological correlation between boreholes and differentiate boulders from bedrock, it is essential to have geological classifications of rock material. Lastly, it is also vital when a rock material is needed for construction purposes.
Alright, so hi to Dr. Afika, I'm choosing it from group number 4, and now I'm going to present about the objective of these experiments, which is to determine the physical descriptions and the RQD of rock crust that recover from borehole drilling operations. And next, which is a theory. When a rock exists in the form of natural outcrops, crust, and excavated surface, eventually it can be described in the following terms, where the first one, which is the material characteristics, which is strength, structure, color, texture, grain size, and rock name. While the second one, which is the general information, which is the additional information and minor constituents and geological information. And the third, which is the mass characteristics, which is the state of weathering, discontinuities, and also the fracture states. Thank you.
Next, we move on to the apparatus and rock sample. The first one is core barrel, which is mineral drinking box water. The second one is rock core, which is paper. And lastly, we have a measuring tape, which is a cable wire. Next, we move on to the procedure. First, the length of the core run was measured by using cable wire as a replacement of measuring tape and recorded in millimeter. Second, the total length of rock core 1 recovered was measured by using cable wire and recorded in millimeter. Third, the length for each part of the rock core was measured by using cable wire and recorded in millimeter. Fourth, step 1 to 3 was repeated by using rock core 2 and 3, and all the respective length was measured and recorded in millimeter. Then, the fifth, the core recovery CR was calculated for each rock core 1, 2, 3 using an equation, and the rock quality designation RQD was calculated for each rock core using an equation. And lastly, table results were referred to determine the rock description based on rock mass quality. Okay, first we need a few apparatus to conduct this experiment, which is a rock core, a core barrel, or we call core run, and we have to use a measuring tape, but we use a cable wire as a replacement of measuring tape. First, we need to measure length of a core barrel, and then we record the data. Next, we have to measure the length of a rock core recovered, and the data is recorded. Then the length of each part of the rock core is measured one by one, and then we record the data again. Then we can calculate the core ratio recovery using this formula, and then we can calculate the rock quality dimensions RQD using the formula. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
For the calculation for CR or core recovery ratio in percent is equal to length of core recovered divided by length of core run, while the RQD, rock quality designation in percent, the formula is length of core in pieces more than 100 mm divided by length of core barrel. So for the C1, the CR is equal to 93.33% and RQD equal to 90.67%. For C2, the CR is 98.93% and RQD equal to 77.967%. And for C3, CR is equal to 64.33% and RQD equal to 50.33%. For discussion, core recovery is a proportion of a drill rock column recovered. As core in core drilling, the amount withdrawn generally is expressed as a percentage of a theoretical total in general terms as excellent, good, fair, or poor. RQD, also known as a rock quality designation, which is the measure of rock core taken from the borehole, it also indicates the degree of jointing or fracture in the rock mass, which is measured in percentage. From the experiment, the core recovery value for the core number 1 is 93.33%, while the RQD value is 90.67%. This shows the rock has a excellent rock mass quality, and it is good and fresh rock. It also cannot be broken by hand easily. For the core number 2, the core recovery value is 98.93% and RQD is 77.67%. This indicates the rock has a fair rock mass quality and is also considered as a good and hard rock. The last core number 3 has a core recovery of 67.33% with an RQD of 50.33%, where it also shows fair rock mass quality with good and hard rock. Some precaution to be taken while conducting an experiment is it has to be checked and ensure there is no systematic error. Next, the eye position of the observer, where it has to be perpendicular to the reading scale on the meter ruler. And lastly, the experiment has been conducted a few times with different observers to obtain more accurate results.
Good morning, doctor. My name is Tong Ran Hao, and today I'll be talking about the conclusion. So, in conclusion, the core number 1 has an excellent rock mass quality with a RQD of 90.67%, whereas for core number 2 has a fair rock mass quality with RQD of 77.67%, and last but not least is the core number 3 that has only a fair rock mass quality with RDQ of 50.33%. Hence, the objective of this experiment has been achieved. That's all from me. Thank you very much.